John Fabian Witt, American Contagions, Epidemics and the Law from Smallpox to COVID-19. Embark on a fascinating journey through American history and its responses to infectious diseases, as Yale Law School professor John Fabian Witt unveils the intricate relationship between law and contagions. In American Contagions, Epidemics and the Law from Smallpox to COVID-19, Witt showcases how disease outbreaks have led to the creation of institutions that aim to protect human rights, while combating the spread of infection. From smallpox to COVID-19, learn how epidemics have forced society to rethink civil liberties and confront economic inequality and racial injustices. This book summary will shed light on the vital topics and themes that reveal the complex dynamics between epidemic law and American life.
The Impact of Epidemics. John Fabian Witt, a law professor at Yale, explores how epidemics have shaped American society and law, forcing people to reconsider civil rights, racial injustice, and economic inequality. Through his analysis, Witt demonstrates how the law has been used in the fight against infectious diseases, leading to the creation of institutions that preserve people's rights while battling epidemics. In doing so, Americans have been able to confront their deepest values. Witt's book is a timely read for those interested in the United States' response to COVID-19 and the public's reactions. Critics have praised the book for its concise and accessible history of American efforts to prevent and manage pandemics. The Impact of Infectious Diseases on American Law. In his book, Witt explores how various diseases including smallpox, yellow fever, and influenza have shaped American law and impacted the nation's daily life. Epidemics led to the establishment of government agencies and the implementation of clean water systems. The U.S. Constitution dictates that legal authority for responding to infectious diseases should be delegated to states. Which shows that dealing with epidemics forced Americans to make tough decisions about their fundamental values. Deadly diseases in early America. In the book, the author reveals that infectious diseases like smallpox, yellow fever, and cholera killed countless people in early America, more than combat during the War for Independence. The government was quick to implement measures to prevent the spread of diseases, with courts upholding quarantine and detention of incoming boats and mandatory vaccination laws. Despite this, lawmakers and scientists had limited knowledge of these illnesses, but recognized they were a public problem that requires a public response. The book sheds light on how infectious diseases were managed in the early days of the United States and the role of government in protecting public health. American History of Public Health. In this book, Witt delves into the 19th century jurisprudence of hygiene and the movements that emerged from it advocating for progressive social reform. Witt explores the philosophy of progressive sanitationism, which held that the law may overlook liberty and property rights to serve public health. He also identifies conservative sanitationists who believed that government intervention was necessary to prevent the spread of infectious diseases from slums to affluent neighborhoods. The author goes on to analyze the quarantinist approach as anti-democratic, which has often been exercised in a prejudicial manner against people of color and immigrants. Witt highlights America's long history of discriminatory public health practices towards minority communities and non-whites since the colonial era. Witt reports on the U.S. Supreme Court's rulings regarding state rights to enforce quarantines in international port cities and support for the Chinese Exclusion Act that granted the federal government power over immigration. Witt finds that populist libertarian resistance to legally enforced public health measures has had little impact on constitutional law. The book concludes that America's response to the coronavirus reflects its legal and social history. Witt urges the need for proper housing for infected individuals and public health insurance for everyone as a preventive measure against the spread of infectious diseases. Finally, Witt cautions how citizens and government entities exploit courts for partisan purposes, while federal officials have largely abdicated authority to state governors, generating a variety of responses without much coordination. America's response to infectious diseases. In his book summary, Witt takes the reader on a fascinating and enlightening journey through American law and its responses to disease. He draws parallels between the disorganized and partisan response to COVID-19 and previous responses to infectious diseases. Witt's writing is clear and readable, making it an enduring textbook for those interested in the United States response to COVID and its connection to existing laws. This book is a valuable addition to other epidemic-themed books.
John Fabian Witt's insightful exploration into the intersection of law and infectious diseases throughout American history illuminates how the disorganized and partisan response to the COVID-19 pandemic parallels past reactions. The book highlights how legal responses to pandemics have often targeted the poor, non-whites, and people at the border, revealing a deep-seated history of discrimination and authoritarianism. Witt emphasizes that a better approach to preempting epidemics is to provide adequate housing and public health insurance for all. With a compelling and accessible narrative, American Contagions is a must-read for anyone keen on understanding how the United States response to outbreaks is deeply rooted in existing law, social values, and historical patterns.